My name is Peter Rowan. I live in Sydney, Australia. I saw Meher Baba in 1965 at Guru Prasad. I'd heard about Baba only a matter of a year and a half before I actually met him through a friend of mine whom loaned me a book, The Perfect Master by Purdom. He hadn't mentioned Baba to me before I was actually reading the book, but I knew after 10 pages that Meher Baba was my master. It wasn't a matter of acceptance or rejection of Meher Baba. It simply was a fact of my life that the moment that I realized that he was my master is what my life was about. Sometime a few months later, I had the realization that I'd be going to India. And some months after that, word came from Baba that he was to give a darshan for Westerners in May 1965. So I prepared to go to visit him. As it turned out, Baba cancelled that darshan for Westerners and it became a darshan for Easterners. This was in May 1965. Nevertheless, I decided to go to India with the intent of perhaps visiting the places of the 5 perfect masters associated with Baba's advent and bowing down to Baba at their samadhis. I had no intention of seeing Baba because under his instructions it was simply for Easterners and not for Westerners. So I sailed to India, and the day I arrived in Bombay, a letter was waiting from Francis Brabazon, who had been living with Baba for a number of years, stating that Baba had said to visit him during the Eastern Darshan in May. So this happened to turn out to be the last physical darshan that Baba gave. So on May the 1st, 1965, I travelled to Poona, and then to Poona, correct. I travelled to Poona and was there for the 6 days that Baba gave darshan to Easterners. The first day of the darshan was given at the Poona Center, and to describe one's impression of Baba or feelings of Baba is not possible, because I found it was a non-impression. I found that when on seeing Baba for the first time, he was carried in his chair, was that my heart broke. Simply there was no mind there. It was what all my lives, my previous lives, had brought me to this moment, when the beloved was there in front of me in his physical form. I sat in the Poona Center for a few minutes, and Baba, in his loving way, called me up to bow down at his feet. And once again, my heart simply broke. It was the only true meeting that I've ever known. As I said, it was what all my life and lives had been leading me to. So each day, for 6 days, I was able to see Baba. And in the subsequent days of meeting and seeing Baba, what struck me most was the fact that I could once again feel, or for the first time perhaps, feel completely innocent, in that I knew that Baba knew everything about me, that there was no pretenses, there was absolutely no image to keep up, as one does perhaps with other human beings in the world. It was simply a matter of being with Baba, knowing that Baba's care and attention and love was always there with you, and simply being with him. just basking in his love. A completely timeless moment, every minute. One was never ever aware of the time with Baba. Also, even though Baba never spoke, I've never ever known anyone that can communicate as Baba did. It was the only true communication also that I've ever really experienced. So the days went on in Baba's love, his warmth, his gentleness, his ever-changing moods, his suffering. It was just Baba. It was the Christ, the God-man, the sum total of all human existence, the goal. There was no one but Baba. And so it was that those 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 people there each day, the love that they gave Baba, in some unfathomable way, Baba would give back in exact measure the love that they poured out to him. One day, Sarosh took me in to see Baba in the mandali room at Guru Prasad. Baba sat me down in front of him and was speaking generally with the mandali and a few of the workers from the various groups from the states of India, the heads of the groups. And it was just being with Baba again, basking in his sunshine and his love. And after an hour or so, Baba said, "Well, go now and take my darshan on the way out." I waited till almost everyone had gone, and I bowed at Baba's feet. And every moment that I'd ever experienced, or I felt that every moment that I'd ever experienced in every life, poured out from me on his feet in torrents. There was a river of tears, an ocean of tears. My heart was screaming simply, "Baba, Baba, Baba." Baba's eyes seemed to come from a vast distance. He looked at me and stretched out his hand. His hand came to my face. It was the only moment. It was the whole truth of my existence. His infinite love was there with me. It was his infinite kindness. It was the unspeakable kindness of God that stretched out his hand to touch my face, a touch that will last with me through all lives, forever, eternally. The God-man was there. He had reached out and touched my face. A soul so completely unworthy of that love. Yet he touched my face. If in 700 years I could be with Baba simply to feel that touch, and then 700 years again after that, and forever and ever, eternally after that, that would be all I desire. I desire nothing from Baba, just to know that with each succeeding advent, that for one moment I may be with him. He is truly the divine beloved, who should be loved because he is love, not for anything else. So, that one moment was my moment. the beloved avatar, had drawn me to him. And it was a time that it seemed that I shouldn't even be there. But who knows with Baba? He is always with us. And he simply, he brought me to him. And that was the last physical darshan that Baba ever gave. So that is my great joy to know that I came to him then.